Happy Thursday, everybody. And I got to tell you, Matt, it's great to see so many people getting ready for the show ahead of time. We got to give a shout out to Emily already. She's in here every single day before the show starts. And she says this is her favorite part of the day. And she loves the show and can't wait to get to our guest today, which is one of the heavy hitters on the PBA Tour, one of the top 3 players, in my opinion, currently today. And that's EJ Tackett. Matt, happy Thursday to you, man. We're getting close to the weekend if we even know what those are anymore.
Yeah, it feels like every day's the weekend nowadays, Mike, but good to be back. Another show here. Excited to be here and excited to have another great guest on the show today with us.
And speaking of guests, I put out this thing last week. I let people know towards the end of a program, and that means there are people watching the show because I've had a couple of people send an email over to media@insidebowling.com, and that's how you can get in touch with the program off air. We do read all the messages. And I've had 5 guest suggestions thus far sent in already from our fans of the program. So we are taking those into consideration. And I have booked one of those guests for a week from Friday. Matt doesn't even know who it is. But Matt, this gentleman right here, I'm going to tell you something right now. The guy we're going to have on the program a week from tomorrow, he took down Babe Ruth in a Baltimore March Madness contest they just had. And he lost in the quarterfinals in a neck-and-neck controversial situation here. Danny Wiseman's going to join the program a week from Friday, and that was a suggestion sent in from one of our viewers.
That's great. Well, we appreciate everybody sending in their picks, I guess you could say, for who they want to see on the show. And Danny Wiseman, man, another legend. I don't know how we keep doing it, Mike, but we keep getting all these great guests that come on the show, and I'm grateful and excited to spend some time with Danny Wiseman now next week too.
Yeah, I reached out to Danny last night. He said he'd love to come on the show. He may or may not have said that he watches every show and dedicates his entire day listening to us back. He might have said that. He might not have said that. But we'll just leave that up for the viewer to decide if maybe I'm telling a little white lie here or if it's really true. And we'll ask Danny about it a week from Friday. Got a great program for everybody today. We've got EJ Tackett on today. We did some show prep with him last night and today, and we also had him on a little early this morning, asked him a few questions. So we'll get to EJ in just a few moments. I'm feeling pretty good today overall, Matt, and I'm sure you are as well, because we've had people coming over to the website, and they've been purchasing Inside Bowling merch. So we want to thank everybody for that. We mentioned that yesterday, and you're wearing another one yet today. You've got the Club Bowling.
Club Bowling. You guys can head on over to
That's kind of a funny shirt. The intent of that shirt was to be funny. And we did a video with Ronnie Russell working with Ebonite International where he did this one-take video at this place called Donaldson Bowl. And there's this thing called club bowlers, right? Club bowlers. It means that, they think they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, they're not, right? Club bowler. And he said that about Tommy Jones, trying to put him on in this video. It was pretty funny. So that's how that shirt got, it's kind of an inside joke, but I wanted to explain the shirt. And I think that fits you to a T because you're nothing but a club bowler, Matt, with all the bowling pins behind you, all your accolades.
Damn, he's coming off the top ropes at me early today. It's okay, Mike. It's okay, man. It's all right. I'm going to fire back. Don't you worry, man.
Oh, I know. My birthday's in September, and we'll probably still be doing this show. So I can't wait for the birthday show.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, and Emily's saying she loves the new Bowl DMC merch we just came out with today on Inside Bowling. So you can save 15% with coupon code. You can either use YouTube or you can use our code here, IB Show on YouTube or on Inside Bowling with YouTube. Dude, I'm screwing this up already. Once you take over the program, I'm out of here.
I don't even have to say anything. You just do it for me. Oh man, that's funny. I'm excited to get EJ on the show with us here today. We got Norman coming in here saying EJ's the best. He was at a tournament in Middletown, Delaware. I have a picture of us together, a real gentleman, a classy guy, and a bowler with few equals. Man, that's pretty much sums it up right there of EJ Tackett.
Yeah, it sure does. So why don't you bring him in? We'll bring in our guest today, EJ Tackett. There he is. EJ, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing good. We saw you yesterday. You got a little bit of a spotlight yesterday as you did a top questions with Q&A with Coley Edison from the PBA Tour. And you told the story on there. If you haven't seen it, go over to the PBA YouTube channel or Facebook. You can check it out, of how you got the nickname of being the squirrel. Would you explain to everyone on our program how you got the nickname of being the squirrel?
Well, a friend of mine, Tony Johnson, he's from Eastern Ohio, bowls quite a bit on the senior tour, bowls all regionals in the Central. Came up to me one day and said, "What's up, squirrel?" And I'm like, "Dude, like, what are you talking about?" He goes, "You know why I call you the squirrel?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Because you always got the nut." And that kind of just stuck after that.
Yeah. And I didn't know that until I watched the show.
Yeah, funny thing is Mike was doing the intro for the Bowler X match games, and he sends me, he's like, "Hey, dude, how's this sound?" And he sends it, I'm listening, and he's like, "And now, the squirrel, I have no idea why, but EJ Tackett." And I was like, I never knew that his nickname was the squirrel. Now that you tell that story, it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it didn't come about until, I mean, it was after I came on tour and started bowling regionals when I met Tony. So it was like 2014 maybe. Before that, when I was in college playing golf, my college golf coach, he used to call me the Wizard because of me getting up and down around the greens and stuff. But since I got a nickname in bowling, I figured, okay, well, we were in Portland, Maine when I bowled the first PBA 300 up there. You get a brick. And they're like, well, you have to put a nickname on the brick. You can't use your real name. So I'm like, okay, well, squirrel it is. And now there's squirrels running all over Portland, Maine when we go up there for the PBA League.
That's awesome.
It's funny how that evolves. EJ, obviously you haven't really taken to the lanes recently with everything we're all dealing with the pandemic. But you did take on Brad Angelo recently because your parents own a bowling center. You have access that you can go bowl just right down the street. Tell us a little bit about what you did with Brad there and how did that come out? Because I didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
Well, we've actually done it twice now, and we plan on doing it on Mondays at noon. We're trying to do a different format every single week, and we have a GoFundMe started to donate to our local hospitals. Brad's going to donate to the one there in Lockport, and I'm doing one here in Bluffton. But it's fun. We just kind of banter back and forth. We also use StreamYard like you guys are using, and going Facebook Live with it, and it's turned out well. We're 1-1. Brad won the first event, or the first week, and I won the second week. The first week, Brad beat me down really bad, but we were bowling on a house shot. And then the second week, we bowled on Scorpion this past week, and I beat him pretty bad this time. So I'm anxious to see what happens this coming Monday. So we're planning on doing this at least probably at least 3 more times, maybe more than that. But yeah, you guys can check it out. 10 in the Pit Pro Shop at noon on Mondays.
And that's virtual bowling where you guys actually take to the lanes and bowl each other.
Yep. It's been fun, actually.
I wish I could get on that. I need to find a bowling center that'll just open
this
up.
This is scratch, Mike. They don't give out sticks in this program.
I'm out. So you two have a little bit of history from what I understand. I didn't know this, but you guys were on Team USA at the same time. What was that experience like, rooming together and competing for our country together? I didn't know about this.
It's amazing to be able to have the opportunity to do something like that with Team USA and represent your country and wear the red, white, and blue and get to travel all over the world. The last time I traveled for Team USA was to Hong Kong for World Championships, and that was an amazing experience. But yeah, I think the last time Matt was on the team was the last time when we roomed together.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. It was fun. I showed him my biggest fan. I always travel with a fan because I need like the white noise to help me sleep. So I was like, "Hey man, you want to see my biggest fan?" So I pull it out of my bag.
Yeah, it was
It
great.
goes everywhere.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So wait a minute here. So you just said that you need white noise to be able to sleep. But on the show yesterday with Coley, you talked about how you roomed with a guy, Andrew Frawley, I think it was. Was that right?
Andrew Graff.
Andrew Graff. Okay, see, there you go. I was in the neighborhood. Having a great show today. I am. I know Matt liked that one. So you room with him, and he's making all this noise in the middle of the night with the video games and the keyboards, but you need white noise. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, that's two different noises. The clicking is not white noise.
That fan's probably why that his rooming with Graff was probably the reason why he needs that fan.
No, actually, the reason why I use a fan all the time, I never really used one until I got on tour and I started rooming with Ronnie. Ronnie also does the same thing, and he travels with a fan. So, like, we're together so much and rooming so much together throughout the year, like, I got used to it. And then when I come home and I didn't have one, I'm like, I need a fan.
Now, you guys go ahead, Mike.
Is Natalie cool with the fan? Like, she good with the fan?
Yeah. Okay. At least if she isn't, she hasn't told me.
Now, you mentioned that when you started rooming with Ronnie, that's how you picked it up. You and Ronnie, for everybody that follows you or Ronnie or the PBA, kind of knows that you and Ronnie have this bromance, you know. And you can throw Marshall in there as well. The three of you kind of have this bromance where you guys like to go around saying America and like drive your trucks and have a good old Midwestern time. How did your relationship with Ronnie become so close and so strong?
Well, when I first came on tour, Ronnie kind of became my big brother. He lives 40 minutes from me. We're close together, so we could hang out every now and then. And even when Ronnie was younger, in his teens in high school, my dad used to bowl a lot of pot games and rush roulettes in Marion, where Ronnie lives. And Ronnie's dad was also there bowling. So my dad has known Ronnie for 25, almost 30 years now. So it was just kind of, I didn't really know Ronnie that well until I actually got on tour, but we've become really, really close friends. And, it's been pretty good so far. And hopefully it's one of those things that a friendship that lasts a lifetime.
Have you guys been to country concerts together? Have you attended country concerts?
I believe so. I don't really remember it, but yeah, I was there, I
think. You strike me as one of those guys that if you didn't travel so much, you'd have like those country music mega tickets in everybody's hometowns where you go to every country concert at the amphitheater.
I probably wouldn't, because I don't even like buying tickets to anything. Like, I enjoy going to concerts and stuff, but I just don't like paying for it.
Oh, jeez. You're like Barnes. We give Barnes a hard time about being so frugal.
Yeah, I'm not that bad, but I'm kind of frugal when it comes to that.
I think the thing that I take from you, just in general, observing you and your career thus far, from being from a promotional standpoint, right? You've got Belmo, right? And we were even looking over some stats. It was 2017. You won the most titles you ever won in a season, which was 5. You made 10 championship round appearances, made the most money that you've ever made on tour, but yet you weren't player of the year that year. You were player of the year before with 4 titles, right? But the thing is Belmo puts himself out there. He self-promotes, also bowls well, does all these things. And then there's EJ Tackett, who arguably, you're number 2 right now behind Belmo. I think it's safe to say that you're the number 2 bowler in the world over the last 3 or 4 years. But you choose not to put yourself out there on social media. You don't make it a priority of yours. You're way more just soft-spoken, under the radar. When you're not bowling, you're enjoying your time with your family, at home, sticking to yourself, being in the country, away from people. Why is that?
I think all the reasons you just mentioned. I'm more of a, I guess more of a private person. When I come home, I just want to come home and be with my family and not feel like I'm obligated to take time away from that to be on social media. Social media is a very powerful tool, and I understand that. But, to me, is it really, obviously, yeah, you can make money, people will know who you are and all that good stuff. But in the long run, is it really worth giving up all of that time taken away from the family and other things that I really enjoy doing, just to get recognition from people? And one of the things that I kind of, I don't know how to say it, disappoints me, I think, about maybe some social media people that are like actually really famous, is to me, it just all seems fake. It doesn't seem real. Like, I saw Jim Carrey posted about someone going up to a homeless person and giving them something, but recording the whole thing. Like, that's not humanitarian. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do it without expecting anything in return. And that's what I don't like about a lot of people that do that kind of thing on social media. So it makes me want to withdraw away from it a little bit. I know Natalie wants to do a lot more stuff, and I think in the future she's going to be taking over a little bit of the social media to get a little more content. But that's me personally. Like, I think you should do things because you want to, not to get someone to like you for it, if that makes sense.
Very well put. Very well put. I know that your first love was golf, right? We've talked about that before. I've done some PBA interviews with you. It came up on the interview with Coley yesterday about how she even asked you a question about golf because you're a tremendous golfer. You were a great youth golfer. You mentioned there that, Jordan Spieth was a person you competed against, and realized at that point in time is, Dad, I'm just not good enough to compete at this level over here on the golf scene. I'm going to go for bowling. I'm going to go all in for bowling. I think I can do something there. But in golf, I see a lot of golfers have the same sort of makeup of your character. They're very much like you, but because of the media in golf, they're covered more. There's more people that are doing things like what we're doing today. You have to say yes and go do these different things, and these endorsements are way different. And I think that if you would have pursued golf or had the same path in golf to have the success that you've had in bowling, maybe we would be seeing more about EJ Tackett, because you wouldn't have to do it all on your own. And a lot of bowlers have to do it on their own. And I think you're blessed to have a person like Natalie on your side who can be there to help you. So from a personal fan of yours and a standpoint for all of bowling, I hope that you and Natalie can sit down and figure out how you're going to handle your social media and the promotion of the things that you're doing to make a better difference in the world as well.
Yeah. And I hope that we can, I want to do it in the correct way. And I want to do things for the right reasons and not seem, boastful or egotistical when I do things. And that's another reason why I don't post as much, because I feel you have to like yourself more than you like other people to do those sort of things. At least a lot of people do. And that's just the way I view it. That's just my personal opinion. Not saying that everyone that has a huge following on social media is a bad person. It's just the perception of, I guess, social media personalities that just turns me off to the whole thing.
Yeah. So we mentioned, the question about, Natalie's so good at social media and is a great partner for you here. Emily says, I got a question for EJ. How did you meet Natalie, and how cool is it that Natalie works on Flow Bowling and gets to travel with you?
It's awesome that she gets to work on Flow Bowling and travel with me. She gets to make a little bit of money. We get to be together. We don't have to spend all that time apart. And during the day, she's doing her work, and especially if there's two squads, if I bowl the morning squad per se, she's working during that time. We might have lunch, and then she's working again. I can go hang out with Ronnie and Marshall and kind of do the thing, and then we meet up for dinner. And it's kind of like, we get to be together, but it's not overbearing over time. We're not down each other's throat every second of every day. So it's a nice mix of having separation but still being together. But as far as Natalie and I meeting, we were actually on Junior Team USA 2013. And that's where we first met. And then it wasn't until, obviously we had some encounters for a few years, between 2013, 2016. But it was really like in the summer of 2016 when we really we hung out for a couple of times, and then we had a connection, and we just we went with it, and we just hung out for a little bit. She got a job in Indianapolis at Woodland Bowl, so she moved from O'Fallon to Indianapolis, and that allowed us the opportunity to go on a couple dates and hang out and be ourselves, and it's turned into a happy marriage, and I can't be any more thankful than I am to have her in my life.
I can see that right now on your face, buddy. I can see it. Still smitten, huh?
Yeah.
I want to talk about your dad a little bit, right? We have this iconic moment, and if Matt wants to come back in, and we can get this queued up here as I talk through this. Your relationship with your father is incredible. Just from talking to you, I believe we've been at a BJ's restaurant in Reno after you've won before, and we spent some time talking about your dad a little bit. But tell us a little bit about this relationship with Dad, and then how you guys have just been so close over the years. I also talked to someone yesterday on the phone that knew that you were coming on the show today, and he remembered trying to sell capital equipment to your father, scoring units, and he said, "My boy right now is down at Kegel getting some help with his game," and this is when you were very young. So your father has thought the world of you and your abilities. And in this moment here that we'll queue up here in a minute, we'll play, you hug him, and you talk about this a lot, but talk a little bit more about your relationship with your father and why he believes in you so much.
It's been one of those things that my dad's been my only coach that I've had in bowling my entire life. Obviously, I've worked with the Team USA coaches, and they're all wonderful. But my primary is my dad. Whenever I'm bowling on tour and something's not right, something feels a little bit off, I come home and I say, "Dad, we got to go do some stuff." And it normally happens a couple times a year where something just doesn't feel right. But I'm like, "Dad, we got to go work on it." And no matter what my dad's doing, he drops it and says, "Okay, we're going to go work on it." And, me and my brother has been my dad's most important thing in his entire life. And everything he does revolves around what it's going to do for us. And my dad sacrificed so much in his life to be able to share a moment like that and kind of give back to him his dreams, I guess. His dreams was to be great at something, but he was never able to do it. And to see me do it and have him there and experience it has been, it's hard to put into words that feeling of after I won and being able to jump up there and hug him. You saw all the emotion that came out in me. And I still I get emotional talking about it every time I do to this day. It was almost 4 years ago now. And it still makes me emotional talking about it, because it was a lifetime of work from my dad and myself that led to that moment. And it's been a crazy ride, and I hope that there's many more moments like this to come.
Yeah, and here it is. We're showing it right here where you jump up and hug your dad, and that was all just completely emotion right there.
Yeah, and I was perfectly fine, but as soon as I put my arms around my dad, I completely lost it. I started bawling. Like I said, I played golf my whole life. I watched Tiger. Got to see him win the '97 Masters and do the same thing with his dad, because they were a team and they worked together his entire life. They worked to that moment, and that's what me and my dad did. And it just man, it's just so hard to put into words the feeling that I had that day.
Yeah, and that's coming off also. You've struggled in major championships as the top seed. In your first couple of telecasts, you were the top seed. A lot of pressure being the top seed in a major. And the question I wanted to ask, and I talked to Matt about this before the show, was in golf, you being such a big fan of golf and a great golf athlete, they put a huge emphasis through all their marketing and everything about how big the majors are. And I feel like bowling always has, but it seems like recently majors have been a bigger deal. Do you put extra pressure on yourself in major championships?
No, I don't think I put extra pressure on myself, but I think the focus is heightened during major championships because they are so important. I think at the end of your career, even if you win, numerous titles, the one stat they're always going to look at is how many major championships did you win. So it's a huge emphasis for me. I don't necessarily put pressure on myself, but I like I said, I think the focus is just heightened a little bit more, and the thought process and mental aspect of it is sharper during major championships.
Yeah, and speaking of major championships, we've got a moment here as well that we wanted to dissect and talk about with you. It's the 2017 PBA Tournament of Champions. And we've got you queued up here in the 10th frame. And if you want to go ahead and just play this map, we can talk through a little bit. Okay. In this particular moment, I believe it's the time that I've seen you get the most frustrated with yourself on television. And it was in this 10th frame where you needed to go up and you needed a double to force Tommy to strike, I believe it was. And you throw the first one, great. But tell us what happens here at on the second one and how you were feeling on this telecast.
The lanes were actually pretty tough, and bowling somebody like Tommy Jones, I've watched Tommy my whole life. He's one of my inspirations of my rev rate. I watched him growing up when I was early 10, 11 years old. I'm like, oh, I'm going to hook it like Tommy. So as watching him and knowing what he's capable of doing and all this stuff, I know that I have to apply as much pressure as possible. And this shot, like the left lane was hooking more, and it was the good lane. And I spun it and missed it into the oil. And I just was so upset with myself that I did that I thought I lost the tournament, because there's no way, this is a major champion, there's no way that Tommy Jones is going to screw this up. I mean, he's Tommy Jones. He doesn't do that in these situations. He's going to go up and do exactly what he needs to do to win the tournament. And I was very, very frustrated because I thought, I let another major championship slip through my fingers. I thought if I struck out, I had a good chance at winning. And at that moment, I thought I had completely lost.
Yeah, and a lot of things that people don't know is behind the scenes, bowlers fry out after the show. You never get to see it. And I feel like at this particular moment, everyone got to see what that fry out looks like after someone loses a major championship right here. You did it on television. But then the law of averages plays out in your favor here, pal. When you saw him leave this, and we're going to let everybody watch this, I want to know after he leaves this, what you were thinking in your mind at this point in time.
When he left it, I still thought I lost. Because I thought back at this moment, I thought back to 2013 in Japan. I made the show and I bowled Tommy. And I opened in the 10th frame, I think. And Tommy gets up and leaves the 210. And he has to make it and get 9 to tie. So he makes the 210. But he gets up and he 2-8-10s on the next shot, and I end up winning the match. But I honestly thought there's no way he misses it. And off his hand, I kind of looked around like this, and I'm like, ooh, that's left. And when he walked away and I saw the headpin stand, I'm like, oh my God, I just won. Like I was in so much shock. And you can kind of see it on my face, like, I don't even know what to do. Like, what just happened? Tommy Jones just did that? I'm like, what? I was so baffled in that moment.
Yeah, and we wanted to bring it up because we know you've talked about it before, but I just can't imagine what that's like, because you're right. Tommy Jones is one of the most clutch competitors. Like, he's known as Mr. Clutch over the years, and for him to do that, have you had a conversation with Tommy since that moment and discussed that show at all?
No, we joke about it all the time, though. He jokes about the major he gave me and all these things. And at that time, Ronnie and I had a little. I don't know if you want to call it a bet between us, but every time, well, it was basically for Ronnie because I was bowling good at the time, but every time somebody won a major between the two of us, we were going to buy new Scotty Cameron putters. So it was just Ronnie's way of scamming Scotty Cameron out of me, but that's okay. So it was a month later or so, we're down in Florida. We bowled there was an extra frame flow bowling event down in Sawgrass, I think. So we go out and play golf. And we have these putters. Me and Ronnie both have the putters because we ordered them right after that on our way to Vegas for the Masters. So we got home, went there, have them. And I went up to Tommy. I said, hey, man, I just got to thank you. He goes, for what? I said, for this new putter. And you probably should go check out the one you bought Ronnie, too.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
we egg each other back and forth quite a bit on that, but it's all in fun.
Yeah, and the other your first major that you won, the World Championship that we watched earlier, you beat another good buddy of yours, Smalls. What is it like? And we saw it a couple times on TV this year where Tommy's bowling Barney, you've got Bill bowling Belmo, all these guys that are such good friends bowling each other. What is it like when you're bowling for a major championship against one of your best friends?
It's awesome, actually. But the World Championships against Tom Smallwood, I guess looking back on it, I wouldn't have want to bowl anyone else because Tom Smallwood, obviously, he's one of my best friends, but he's such a class act person. Like, he's kind of the definition of it. There was a couple of things that I did that I didn't even realize that I did at the end of that TV show. Like Smalls threw his second one in the 10th, got 6 and still had another shot to throw. And I was, off hugging my dad and stuff. And I came back and I grabbed the trophy and I kind of like stepped in front of him walking back off the approach after finishing. And he just stopped and stepped to the side. And it was something I didn't even realize I did it. I was just so in the moment, like everything else didn't exist. And I didn't even know that I did it until we did like one of the player perspective things, and we went back and watched it, is when I actually realized that's what I did. And after I realized it, I texted Tom. I was like, dude, I just watched the show, and I'm like, I didn't even realize that I did that, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do anything like that. And he goes, buddy, it's okay. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, it doesn't matter. You were just living in your moment, and having someone like that you can do something that's maybe not as professional as you'd like to do, that just someone that just accepts that they were in the moment and didn't even realize what they were doing and still, doesn't worry about it. It's just, it's awesome.
Yeah. And, I know that you and Smalls have also, although Smalls is, kind of subdued and he's very quiet, he's also had some really funny moments. And there's this story involving Matt Sanders and a credit card. And I was wondering if you could tell that story here for all the people. Clean it up, of course, if need be. But this is a hilarious story that I think everybody deserves to hear.
Yeah, so it was a couple of years ago after Matt had won the Plastic Ball Championship that was in Memphis. I think it was the next time we were in Maine. Matt got on the same team as Smalls. I think it was like Smalls, Ronnie, Matt, Loesch, and Watka or something like that, or Dom could have been. Very, very funny, very big drinking team. So they're at a bar in Portland, and Smalls says, hey, Matt, it's your turn to buy a round. Matt says, okay, but I'm not going to go get it. So he hands Smalls his credit card. Smalls, okay. And this kind of stuff is like why I love Tom Smallwood so much, because he does this stuff like quite often. So he goes to the bar and he orders a round and he asks the bartender for a pair of scissors. He's like, you got a pair of scissors? He goes, yeah. So Smalls ended up even paying for the round. He didn't even charge Matt for the round. He comes back, brings the beers back, takes the 2 pieces of his credit card, throws it at him, and said, don't you ever big time me again.
Wow.
Oh man, and Tom has done a few things like that, and oh man, he's got some really, really good moments.
We've had several comments coming in about what a class act you are, EJ, from this interview here today. And Gray from the Ringing 10 says, there we go. One of the biggest moments for me that stands out regarding EJ's character was when he told Belmo he's one of the best ever following Belmo's 10th major. Such a class act. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah. At the Tournament of Champions, that was really cool. It was cool to be a part of, actually. Or what? Yeah, was that his 10th or 11th?
Oh, it might have been the 11th. Yeah,
I think it could have been the tying one. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was cool, man. It really was.
Do you wish that you would have been born in a different era when Belmo wasn't around and been capturing the amount of titles and how well you've bowled? Do you think the tour would be easier for you with no Belmo?
No.
No?
I love the era that I'm in because I know exactly where I stand in history right now. So that's just kind of the way I look at it. And they've asked me, who do you hate bowling on TV the most? And my answer is Belmo. It's because I hate bowling him and I love bowling him. I love bowling him because I know if I beat him, I know I beat the best in the world. If I lose, well, I lost to the best in the world. That's why it's a love-hate bowling him on TV because you know what you're going to get every single time. And if you come through, it's that much more rewarding. It's kind of like anyone beating Tiger between 2000 and 2007. It's kind of the same thing that it's very, very rewarding when you do.
I've got some stats here I want to go over with you.
Okay.
You're 27 years old, or at least we think you're 27 years old, as we asked you before the show, and you said, yeah, I think I am. So you're 27 years old. Let's just say you're 27. You've won 13 times on the PBA Tour. Think about that for a minute. Do you ever sit there and think about that you've won 13 times?
I do actually. Yeah, I sit back sometimes and it just kind of hits you. You're like, wow, I've won all these titles. Like, you're having Danny Wiseman on next week. I think we both have 13. And I remember watching him growing up on TV and winning. And I'm like, oh, that guy's pretty good. And now I'm tied with him. Okay.
That's pretty incredible. And you're how far from Indy are you?
I live about an hour and a half from Woodland.
Okay. So another famous bowler, what the last name of Weber was from Indianapolis originally, even though he relocated to St. Louis, Dick Weber, right?
Yep.
So I was talking to Steve Orff last week about this, just to put some things in perspective, and he brought up your name with me on the phone. Dick Weber was one of the founding fathers of the PBA Tour, right? 1959 was the inaugural season. And according to Wikipedia here, going over some of these stats, he won 3 of the first 4 tournaments at age 31. And Dick didn't start until he was 31 and won 30 titles. 30 titles. Okay? Could you imagine that you aren't going to start your professional bowling career for 4 years from right now and have those 13 titles stripped away, plus whatever you may win between now and then? Don't want to take anything for granted because your next title is always the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
But it just puts things in perspective, being another guy from the same area that you're from. What do you think about Dick Weber's accomplishments of being able to win 30 titles from age 31 on?
I mean, it's really, really impressive. But, most, especially in bowling and golf, you see it a lot, is like the prime age where you're so physically really good, you're agile, but your brain gets a little bit smarter and gets a little bit better as you get a little bit older. And you see the guys in golf and bowling between the ages of 30 and 40 is like their prime. In their 20s, they have kind of the ups and downs, but you see in the 30s and 40s, you kind of see more of this, and then at the end, it starts to tail off. But I think during that time is your prime age. So him winning that many times, yeah, that's a lot after 31 years old. But does it surprise me? No, not really. It really doesn't.
So let's say you win at this pace over the next 4 years. Let's say you win 5 titles. Let's just throw that out there, right? Just based off of history, if that continues. So you would have 5 more titles. You'd have 18 titles. Okay. If you went on to have the same career as Dick Weber from 31 on, right, you would have 30 more titles. You would retire with 48 titles. Do you think you can get there?
Well, if I didn't think I would get there, I'd never get there. And that's the way I look at it. I get asked that question a lot. Do I think I can get to 48? Absolutely. Only the time of a career and in 20 more years of bowling will tell if I can or not. But I believe in myself that I can do it.
Do you feel proud of your rev rate being a single-handed right-handed bowler with all of the two-handers that are on tour and so many two-handers now that are creating the rev rate that they are, do you consider yourself one of the last chosen ones of high rev rates, throwing it with just one hand, and you're going to become extinct?
No, I don't. I think there's going to be a good mix of there's going to be more two-handers in the future, obviously, but I think there's enough people out there that are kind of like, I guess, haters of two-handed bowling that just refuse to do it, and they're going to do it one-handed. So whether or not that one-handed goes away or gets left behind, we don't know. I don't believe it will. I think there's going to be a good mix of both throughout the future. Am I proud of it? To me, it's irrelevant whether you throw it with one hand or two hands. Because at the end of your career, does it really matter? You know, I look at how many times did you win, how consistent were you, that sort of thing. So whether you have a high rev rate, no rev rate, one hand, two hands, no hands, it's all kind of irrelevant to me.
I want to bring Matt back in. Matt and I were having a conversation about your last couple of years of your career, and we listened to your Q&A again with Coley yesterday, and you talked about how 2019 was a great season for you. Like, it was really an incredible season, but you only won one title. One thing that we were thinking about is trying to figure some of that stuff out, and we're going to get the answer from you, obviously, because you're on our show. But we started thinking about, Fox. Fox was a change in 2019, and your winning percentage went down, even though you had 9 championship round appearances. Did that have anything to do with your performances on television?
No, actually, in 2019 was probably probably the best I've ever bowled on TV as a whole. I just got beat, and that's just the way it is. I bowled several times. I bowled 230, 240s, and lost. So it wasn't like I was bowling bad or performing bad. It was just I was just getting beat, and there's nothing you can do about that. You can go out there and do the best that you can, and I feel that I did, and it just wasn't enough on those particular days. And the way I look at it is, if I keep doing that, keep performing on that level, over time, the curve is going to come back in my favor. So I just got to keep my head down, keep grinding away, keep doing the same things, and keep getting on TV and performing well. And eventually, I think the tides will turn and come back in my favor. And then I'll go on a streak of still bowling 220s, 230s, 240s and winning most of them.
Yeah, we thought maybe because they were putting Specto on the screen and they were analyzing every single one of your shots that all of you Pro Bowlers were like squeezing a little bit more. But then somebody figured something out this year, because then it took like 290 to win.
I know, it was crazy. When I made the show at the Players, I'm like, what's going to happen this week? Am I going to have to bowl 300 to win this or what? And then I lose by 1 pin bill.
Unbelievable.
And we brought the average way down of winning score.
Yeah, and you both bowled like 230 on that show, right? In the title match? Yeah, way down, way down.
There's this PBA League draft coming up. Are you aware of that coming up?
Yeah, May 17th, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we have on our calendar. Yep, even though all the days run together.
Yeah.
Did you by chance happen to see that I was part of a mock draft? I know you stay off social media, but did you see this?
No, I did not see it.
Yeah, so Beef and Barnsey have a show. In case you haven't heard, they have a little show online as well. And they did this mock draft. And I got to draft 2 teams. Barney's team, the last couple picks, because it's pretty much all kind of decided with the first 3 picks, But then I also got to draft this Milwaukee team, and from scratch. And I decided, as Marshall Holman, because that's who is the team manager, I took in the first round, and we're gonna get EJ's live reaction here, Matt. This is great. So in the first round, I had the very first pick. Who do you think I took?
Well, I don't even know who's available. I don't know which people got kept on all the teams. I'd have to see the list to take a good
So I'm
guess.
putting you on the spot. So Sean Rash was available in the pool, and that was kind of the layup, right?
Mm.
I took Ryan Simonelli. Okay, and then with my second pick coming back through, I took Packy Hanrahan.
Okay, I see the trend already.
And then my third pick coming back through, I took Matt McNeil.
Yeah.
And then I took Matt Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And then with my fifth pick, which was my most scrutinized pick that I made, I took a up and comer guy. I took Michael Martell. So I took 5 lefties. So we've been asking some people to get their opinions because Marshall Holman's going to be on Monday, and I'm going to try to convince him to pick all lefties for his team. Do you think that strategy would work, or is completely ridiculous?
No chance.
Yes.
Well,
shut him down, EJ. Shut him down.
Why won't it work?
Yeah, why wouldn't it work?
Because lefties can't follow lefties. They all complain about each other, especially the ones that throw urethane. And I know Michael Martell is one of those that likes to throw urethane a lot. And Ryan Simonelli's not going to like that.
Man, I love these moments where Mike has nothing to say, where he just has no idea.
Okay, EJ, if you let's say you're Marshall Holman and somebody said to you, hey, we're going to give you $1 million if you pick all lefties. What 5 lefties would you put on that team that you think would work best together?
Well, I think the first pick would be Rhino. I mean, I know he's not bowling as much now, but I mean, he's still relevant. He could still bowl. I think I would pick Ryan Simonelli. He was, I think he was MVP the one year, right? The year that they won. So yeah, he's a good pick for there. It's hard not to pick Butters. Thinking who else. And
contrary to what a lot of people think, Butters is pretty good at throwing resin as well.
Yeah, he definitely can. I mean, he did it at where did he do it at? He did it somewhere and he ended up winning.
I think it was Oklahoma. It was a dual pattern. In one of the lanes, he was like hooking a spoiler from fourth arrow.
Yeah. And it's tough. I think possibly in the situation. I mean, I still might pick Parker too. I mean, he's a good shot maker and a good spare shooter, so that leaves one more person. Man, this is tough.
Yeah, and just to let you know why you're thinking on that last person, I don't disagree with your thinking here, but my draft pool wouldn't have been able to shake out quite like that. But I didn't position the question to you that way. Parker's not in the top 75 in points. I couldn't believe it. Because Parker would have been on that team, right? Over like Michael Martell or probably Matt Sanders too. I mean, Matt's one of our brothers from another mother, but I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, there's just no doubt he's going to be on that team. And it's a shame that Parker on the third can't be part of the league because he's not in top 75 in points. And I hope Parker figures something out soon because I know he's contemplating, a Flow Bowling article came out that he's contemplating hanging him up or taking a part-time time on tour. And that would be a shame because, I mean, people come to see Parker and everything that he's done for the sport. We just got to get him figured out. Maybe we can send him to Kegel or something or like you did when you figured it out as a kid. I mean, you know what? I'm writing him down. I'm gonna get Parker on this show and Chris Chartrand at the same time. We're gonna make this happen because I'm sure Parker doesn't have plenty of access to coaches at all. Or on himself even.
Yeah.
His son actually wrote me and he wants to be on our program. I forgot to tell you that, Matt.
Oh, shoot! We should have a little bone family show.
I'd like to have all kids of pro bowlers. We could have Andy Nyer's son.
Anthony's great bowler.
Doug Kent's son.
Yeah, Jake, that'd be fun.
And Parker's son or something like that.
Yeah, we should do that.
And we'll let EJ host the show and we'll take the day off.
I do have my last lefty.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel really stupid for not picking this one earlier. How do you not pick Jesper?
Oh,
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it's because he uses two hands. You don't really think
he's still left-handed. And him and Kyle won the doubles there. I mean,
yeah, that's obvious.
I remember that one a lot since I lost.
Oh boy.
One other topic I want to get to with you, EJ, before we let you go, and we appreciate you coming on the show, of course. But let's talk about your brother a little bit. Your brother Zach, right? We talked a little bit about before the show again on this one. Your brother is a very good bowler as well. When you were 16 and he was 12, you both bowled 300 in the same game in a youth tournament. Could you tell the folks that one a little bit?
Yeah, it was 2009 youth state tournament in and actually in Matt Sanders' stomping grounds in Evansville. We're bowling the doubles and singles part of the event, and we get down to the last game of, I don't remember if it was doubles or singles. Me and my brother are bowling. There was 3 people on each side, and my brother was first and I was second. So we're bowling back to back. And my brother, 12 years old, bowls 300 game. I have the front 9. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, what is going on? I was so nervous. I'd only bowled a couple of 300s, maybe 4 or 5 at that point. And I'm like, wow, we can actually do something here. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, brothers bowling back-to-back 300s. I was really nervous. So I get up there, throw all 3 in the 10th. After the second one, I realized that I could bowl 800 because I bowled 247, 258 or whatever. I had 505 going last game. So I'm like, I need 5 to bowl 800. I'd never bowled 800 before in sanctioned competition. And I'm like, oh crap. So now I'm thinking about, I can bowl 800. I only need 5. I can go the strike for us to bowl the 300s. And I was a nervous wreck. And luckily I struck. And it was awesome. I think we ended up having an article in like a Bowls Journal or something. And it was really cool.
Yeah, I know you're close to your brother. And this year, I actually saw your brother at South Point. The week before the World Series of Bowling, I believe he made the match play in a major, didn't he? Because I know you guys had to bowl each other, from what I understand, from what I remember. He had a really good outing this year.
I don't think so. No, he hasn't made match play at a major yet.
Maybe he made match play at one of the tournaments this year. But I know he bowled really well at one tournament this year because I saw him and we had a conversation about it. But
yeah, I mean, he's been bowling really good. It's just he gets really close and then has a hard time finishing it. I think once he learns and does it once or twice to finish, I think the floodgates might open a little bit and we'll start seeing him more and more.
So yeah, the question I'm trying to get myself to here today is, do you think your brother will ever win on tour?
I don't know. I think he has a physical ability. I think the thing that holds him back a little bit is the mental capacity to stay in the moment instead of looking ahead of what's going on. And I know it's something that I kind of struggled with when I first came on tour. But I had a lot of success early, and I didn't have to go through all the trials and tribulations that he's going through. But I wouldn't say that he can't. I think that he physically can. I think someday when he figures out how to mentally get through a tournament, I think his chances will greatly increase at having the opportunity to win.
How often do you and him work together on each other's games, or do you give him advice or him advice to you?
It's more advice from me to him because I'm just trying to help him with the knowledge that I have that I've gained being on tour. I try to give as much of it as I can to him, and I just try to get him to, kind of use it and make it his own. And whatever works for him. And I see that, Larry, we made the match play in the doubles, and that was it. I forgot about that. Beat him.
We have great bowling purist fans here that help us out and bail us out.
Yeah, and I have a very, very short memory.
Yeah, so your brother also had a scare a couple years ago, and I only mention it not because I want to bring attention to that in particular, but I couldn't believe, I mean, I do believe, but how the bowling world responded to your brother, because he has epilepsy, and there was an issue that happened driving a vehicle, and everybody was very afraid of what was going on, and the whole bowling world rallied around him. That's all I saw on social media that day. When you found out about that, how'd you find out, and how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very scary. Epilepsy is something my brother's been dealing with for about 10 years now. He developed it about 10 years ago. And it's a scary thing. It's something you don't ever want to see somebody have a seizure and have an episode. It's scary. And I remember the first time that it happened, when I saw it for the first time. Me and my brother were actually on the golf course, and luckily, my dad, the hole that we were on, my dad was on the very next hole adjacent to it, so he was able to come over and help. And scary moment, but yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Is he doing? He's doing okay now, though, right?
Yeah, he's doing fine. They when he had that accident, was a year and a half ago or whenever it was. I think a year ago, a little over a year ago. He had like ran out of medicine or something, and he didn't take it for like one day, and it just kind of, because it's such a chemical thing in your brain with the epilepsy. So all the meds keep everything balanced, and if you get out of that balance, things can go downhill pretty quickly.
Wow. Well, EJ, we want to thank you for your time today. We went all over the board today with you, and I know you don't do these things all the time, although recently you have. One more time, could you let people know about the cause you and Brad Angelo are doing and how people can get involved with that?
Yeah. So again, every Monday at noon, at least for the next 3 Mondays, we're going to be Facebook Live, me and Brad Angelo through the 10 in the Pit Pro Shop. And we're doing different matches. We're bowling different patterns every week, doing different formats every week. It's fun to check out. But we started a GoFundMe that will be linked in doing, and you can donate. And portion of the proceeds of that, we're doing a competition, so it's going to be split 60-40 at the end of this. Whoever wins more matches will go to the hospital in Lockport for Brad, and then the hospital here in Bluffton for me. So we won't know who gets the 60-40 until we all get done with this, but it'd be great if anybody could come and check it out, watch, have a good time, donate whatever you can, $1, $10, $100, whatever it is. Anything helps.
Awesome. And of course, you're wearing Motive and Turbo there. You've been with those companies for quite some time. And who are the people that support you?
So obviously Motive I've been with since I started on tour. I signed with them in October 2012. So we're approaching 10 years that I've been with Motive. Turbo obviously has been really awesome. I've been with them for a little over a year and a half now. And then we have Bowler X, Dexter, Genesis, and I don't even remember. I think that's all of them. I can't remember.
You've been involved in a lot of stuff, man. And I think the thing that I get from this entire
I forgot one, creating the difference.
That's right, creating the
difference.
Sorry, Ron. So the one thing that I really gathered from this show and just from talking to you and observing and spending some time with you out on tour a little bit is that you just like to keep to yourself. You're a country boy. You like to be away from people. You don't like to toot your horn too much and just do your thing. Go out and bowl, shut up and bowl, right? That's pretty much you.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I go do my thing, go bowl. But you know what? If everybody that's out watching, if we have the ability in the bowling center bar after we're done, if I'm hanging out, I love hanging out and having a drink with some fans and just having a good time and telling them about whatever they want to know.
Awesome, EJ. Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. Hopefully we'll have you on again in the future, but hopefully you'll be back out on the lanes and we don't even have to do this show anymore. How about that?
I hope so.
Say hello to Natalie for us.
I will. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, EJ. So that's EJ Tackett, Matt. He is one of the superstars in today's bowling world.
Yeah, without question. He is consistently one of the top 5 best bowlers in the world. And in a game like bowling, that's hard to accomplish because it's such a finicky sport at times. There are so many different variables. There are so many different things that are going on. So to always consistently be at the top and to be one of, if you look at the roster and you're like, all right, who has a chance to make the show? EJ's always in that discussion. And it's just really impressive to see how young he is, how great of a career he's had so far. And to think about, when you reference Dick Weber and you make you point out the interesting facts about his career, and then you look at EJ, it's interesting to draw the parallels between the two of them and to see what the future possibly has in store for EJ.
Yeah, you and I talk about sports cards and we talk about other sports a lot, right?
Yeah.
So right now, we had a conversation about Trae Young recently in the NBA and Kobe Bryant as well. And Kobe Bryant, when you look and you see his career, Kobe Bryant didn't have, I think it was 800 assists until like his 5th year in the league. I'd have to look it up again. It's been a month since we talked about this. But you look at Trey Young, who's 900 assists or whatever, and if you play out Trey Young's numbers with what he's done in Atlanta for just a year and a half, and you play that out over a career, he's going to be one of the top 5-point assist people in the history of the NBA, right? So I like to do that with bowling as well. And because Belmo gets all the attention, and sure, there's other stars on tour, Bill O'Neill and Prather's emerging, and of course EJ and Jesper at times is just the man to beat, and Buttriff can do that as well. But I think that some of these guys get overshadowed, and I believe EJ Tackett is going to go down as one of the top 10 bowlers in PBA history when it's all said and done during my lifetime.
I would have to agree, based off of the pace that he's working at right now. I mean, people consider Belmo to be one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. And he didn't win his first title, I don't think, until he was 26. Or somewhere in his mid-20s. So if you compare EJ to where all these other guys are at right now, and I know as an athlete, you don't really like to compare yourself to others. You like to just have your own journey and go at that pace. But when you do compare stats and you compare titles and you compare wins, EJ is way ahead of a lot of these people that you constantly discuss in that conversation of who's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, and you have 11 years difference, I believe it is, in their ages.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It's like
It's 11 titles and 9 years.
That's yeah. Because Belmo, I think, is 36. EJ's 27. So I mean, and similar to what you're saying, though, going back to the other sports, talking about Trae Young, talking about Kobe Bryant, it's interesting how there are a lot of really great players over the years who have great stats in other sports. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is wins. And EJ referenced that today when we were talking. It was not only just wins, but major wins. What comes down to what people talk about when they talk about those greatest of all time conversations. And when Belmo won that 11th major, Rob Stone on Fox Sports screamed out, he's the greatest. And Belmo doesn't have the most amount of titles ever. He's got the most majors ever. And I think it'll be interesting to see how EJ's career moves forward and how many wins at majors he can capture. And I think, like EJ said, it'll definitely help propel him forward into that conversation.
Yeah, agreed 100%. We see you, Justin. Thanks for the merch shout out there. Tomorrow, we got a programming update and announcement for tomorrow, Matt. We're going to be an hour early tomorrow, and I'm probably going to bail out of the show with 15 minutes to go tomorrow, and you'll have to run this thing down. But tomorrow could be our most watched show that we've ever had in the history of our program, which has been 14 episodes so far. As we have not only Shannon O'Keefe, who's a huge draw, but we're going to have her husband, Brian, on if she can get him to the camera. And we're going to have Brian and Shannon O'Keefe on tomorrow. You live with them for a while. You know them very, very well.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people tuning in for tomorrow's show. Any little tease for tomorrow's show, Matt?
I'm just hoping to make it out alive, quite frankly. It's you coined the phrase calling it the episode where it's going to be the Roast Matt episode. So I'm hoping that we can stick to some bowling talk, and maybe there is some interesting stuff about Brian. I know a lot of people will be there to watch and listen to Shannon, but there's a lot of really cool behind the scenes things about Brian that not a lot of people will know, and I'll relate it to you, Mike. Remember how I told you that you are the king of being great at things that don't matter?
Mm-hmm.
I would put you and Brian in the same conversation. I would put Brian ahead of you because he's just really good at a lot of different things, but a lot of things that don't necessarily matter. So that's where I'm going to stop that. And I guess if you want to find out what it is that Brian's good at, you got to tune in tomorrow.
And I may or may not have a couple karaoke songs recorded on my phone that Brian sang.
See, that's tough. I don't know if he's going to let us pull that up, but he doesn't really have a say because it's our show. So it doesn't really matter.
That's right. All right. Well, we're looking forward to tomorrow's show for sure. That's going to do it for today. Today's Thursday. Matt and I still are going to do 40 of these things and then figure out what we're going to do with it. Sorry for having such a bad show today, everybody. I
think my internet was bad today. I think Mike had a couple of stumbling blocks there. But all in all, a great show. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
But hey, Kurt Thompson says I'm brilliant. So we'll see what it's at, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see everybody tomorrow.
Twice a day.
Hour earlier.
12 p.m. Eastern. See you guys there.
See you, everybody.